it should be bigger. It should do more, and it can do more if we just have a little bit of a change. I kept banging on, and everybody I was talking to at the time was saying, this should be sunshine orange.
27% said it increased over the last year.
Yeah.
So I just feel like it's a real struggle at the minute.
And accessing services is not making it any better.
Yeah.
You know, to get a referral to a GP, and I think the whole journey, that somebody's got to get the courage to go out and say, I need help.
Could you do me a massive favour and click follow or subscribe button? It helps the podcast out so much.
Hi, and welcome back to the Make It Sane podcast. I'm joined by Simon Williams. And usually with a guest, like they've either got like a blog or they've got an Instagram page. And I really struggled trying to find information about yourself. But that means I'm really excited to kind of have you on the podcast today to kind of get to know more about yourself. Could you do a little introduction to yourself, Simon?
Yeah, well, it's great to be here, Dan. Thanks ever so much for inviting me. Yeah, my name's Simon Williams. I'm Chief Exec of Anaphylaxis UK.
And usually with a guest, I try and like jump back into kind of like their upbringing and story. And I don't know, I always find it quite interesting rather than we like jump straight into the Anaphylaxis UK. Whereabouts were you brought up?
You couldn't find my autobiography in the library then?
I couldn't. It wasn't on LinkedIn, unfortunately.
I grew up. I was born in North Wales, and then lived there until I went to university in South Wales, and then from South Wales over to the big city here in London.
What did you study then? Obviously,
public administration.
Oh, okay.
So it was a good intro, and at the time then I kind of saw my career mostly in the NHS. So worked for I can't remember what they were called way back then.
Yeah.
A couple of places around South Wales, Swansea, Cardiff, and then had an opportunity to move to London to work for a charity I was involved in at the time called the Patients Association, and worked there for a number of years. And then from then, kind of got the bug to work in patient organisations and that kind of whole advocacy thing and making a difference and helping people, helping people's lives get better.
How old were you when you kind of moved to London? Was you quite young?
Damn.
Yeah. Just going
You're
back,
asking a lot
back
there.
a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, crikey, I must have been in my 20s, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah. And then obviously that kind of working with charities, that kind of like led to kind of the work, what you kind of do now.
Yeah, and it's a bit more than that as well. I think it's always wanted to work in smaller charities because, I get a lot of personal reward out of and satisfaction out about making a difference within an organisation, and then and the impact smaller organisations, small charities have on people's lives. We know most people know the big charities. Cancer Research, British Heart Foundation, Macmillan, and all the rest of them. There are thousands of other smaller charities. Some of them are very local. Some of them are very specific. Some of them are relevant for perhaps only not that many people because it might cover a rare condition. So, but there are thousands out there, and they're often overlooked, but have such an impact on people's lives. And so I just wanted to be part of that, really, and that's where I've stayed ever since.
Is it always quite difficult with the smaller kind of organisations to kind of get that funding and keep the?
It's always a struggle. It's always a struggle. Particularly if you're in a rarer conditions. Traditionally you might get some money from pharmaceutical companies, but if it's a rarer condition, you might not get that funding because there may not be the treatment for it, and then they're more reliant on raising money from the public. And if they don't know that charity and they're competing against, you're in that cycle. And so it's very important for smaller charities really to punch above their weight and be as loud as they possibly can, and be proud of the achievements. And that's what I've hoped to have achieved with the charities that I've worked with previously is be behind the scenes pushing that charity, and having them at the forefront of people's mind when you're talking about that particular condition.
Yeah, I mean, when you was younger, did you know that was the kind of industry you wanted to work in, or was that?
No,
was that
I did.
I
mean, it's just you kind of. I mean, I suppose it's for many people when they kind of use, leave education and they kind of fall into a job, and then haven't necessarily got a clear career structure, unless you're kind of going for it, like if you've trained to be a lawyer or a pharmacist, or in that kind of.
How was the upbringing in Wales then? I bet that was quite.
Oh, it was great. I was up by the seaside. Just, I don't know if you know Prestatyn. It's
no.
It's a nice seaside town next to a very exciting little town where you'd go on holiday. Lots of folk gone in rail to a fun fair and a beach, and it was great.
That's been great when you were younger. It
was fantastic.
You're still in touch with people.
Well, yeah, of course, yeah. I mean, my mum's still up there, and so I go up and make sure she's all right, and she makes sure I'm all right. So I go up and check on her quite regularly, and she'll come down as well for a bit of a change. But yeah, I'm still, and lots of my friends also moved away from around there, and still in touch with them.
They scattered around everywhere.
Scattered around everywhere. Yeah.
I mean, did you mentioned your mum there? Did they have any influence, like your parents?
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. She'll tell me off if she watches this to say how old she is, but it starts with an 8, and she retired from working only a couple of months ago.
Wow, she's workaholic.
I think it's just that dedication and commitment, and it's work. You just that's what you do, and you still enjoy it. You still enjoy it. Like Mum had a great social life, still has. Her friends were around there. It was not just about the money, and it was just it's that kind of work ethic. About getting up in the morning. Where she was working, it was like crack of dawn. It was like 5 o'clock start. And you wouldn't get many people doing that, but she did it for donkey's years.
My parents are trying to take the foot off the gas now, and my dad used to work 7 days a week for years, and get to a point, and they're mid 50s now, and the friends, or you hear these stories of people.
You get bored.
Yeah, people's health deteriorating, or people getting diagnosed with X, Y, and Z, and I think it's having that kind of fine balance.
Yeah, it's a person. Why do you get out of bed in the morning? Why? What do you do in a structured way every day? And we might complain occasionally about having to work, but come Monday, you've pretty much had enough of the weekend, and you want to get back into the swing of stuff.
Did they drill that into you, that kind of work ethic then?
Well, I'm not sure it was drilled into me. It was just that you just pick it up as that's what you do.
Yeah.
That's the way it is.
I was going to talk about family, because I think seeing my dad and where they've come from, I think it's had a massive impact on me, and kind of where I want to go from A to B and stuff. So I always find it quite interesting how people kind of take that journey and how they get to where they are and stuff. Have you never kind of looked back since you moved to London then?
What, to move back to Wales?
Yeah.
I'd love to. I really miss the seaside. I love that.
Do you go back often, or
when
you try to
2 or 3 months? Not irregular. Every couple of months, maybe. See if everything's all right back home. But yeah, I do miss the beach. I love being up there, and it's just completely different. I always say to my mum, what I miss most is the sky. Yeah. What you miss down, you don't see it. Tall buildings, small windows, just walking around. You don't see the sky. Whereas back home in Wales, you've got one side is the seaside and the other side of the mountain range. So you can look out and you see,
The parents can't get over how warm it is when they come here.
Is that right?
Yeah,
definitely in the
from
summer. Manchester.
When I moved here, honestly, I couldn't believe how hot it was. It sounds stupid to say, but I was it's absolutely roasting. I couldn't get my head around it.
Right. No, it's funny, those little things, but I know what you mean. When my mum first came down, I do remember this, as that's when I first started, and I think it was probably the first time that she came down here. And she had a bit of a tear in her eye, and I thought, oh, she's proud, she's proud. And she said, the pollution down here is awful.
No, the hay fever. Yeah. Whereabouts did you move to in London?
Oh, I've been all over.
Yeah.
My mates joke with me that they should have blue badges outside all the buildings. I've lived in East Dulwich. That was great. Lived on Lordship Lane. That was amazing. Lived in Balham. Lived in
I love Balham. I used to live in Clapham South.
Did you?
Yeah.
Nice down there. Yeah, it's good fun. But it's a lot different that now than it was then.
Yeah.
It wasn't a Waitrose, it was a Quick Save or whatever down there. So it shows the kind of difference in the sort of people and the money that's down there.
Yeah, I know. I've loved it like since been in London. Like,
Yeah, it's a great place. I mean, I moved out now, and
whereabouts are you outside of London?
I am
Yeah.
just that. I mean, it's not that far outside,
Yeah.
you know. It's and now the Elizabeth line's opened. This will mean nothing to anybody outside of London.
Are you in the
of
office
course.
5 days a week then?
No, not at all. Our offices are down in Farnborough,
Oh, okay.
so we're mostly remote.
Yeah.
So we all mostly work from home. We've still got an office,
Yeah.
but we very, very rarely meet.
Yeah.
Fundraising might go in once a week. We collectively go in. The whole home team go in once a month for a staff meeting. But I think people are quite comfortable to now work from home.
Yeah.
We've changed a lot of kind of IT stuff that makes it easier for people. And if you want to meet
It's
in
mad the
Starbucks,
change, isn't it?
well, it
Over
is
the last-
crazy, But like a place like Starbucks, just have a meeting in there, can't you?
Yeah, it's nice because obviously I was saying like before this, I work remotely, but it's nice to get out. Otherwise, like my girlfriend's like she works from home as well, and we're driving each other up the wall. Like, so it's nice to get out and get to like the WeWork or different places.
I know when we were getting into the swing, everyone was working from home. Somebody said to me, "What she does, she goes out the house and then round the block clockwise." And then when she's finished work, she goes out the house and works anti-clockwise.
Yeah.
So as though she's like leaving the house and then coming
out,
back in there. I thought
yeah.
that was quite a good idea. I didn't do it, but it was quite a cool idea.
I was going to say with the different charities you worked at, how many charities have you worked at now?
Oh,
Quite a
crikey.
few,
I lose count now. 3, 4, maybe more.
You ever, obviously you mentioned a lot, like working a lot with the smaller charities.
Yeah.
Do you enjoy that more than working with like a big corporation?
Yeah, I mean, I've not ventured into working for a larger charity already. Well, apart from the NHS, for a larger organisation, because it is making that difference. I do get more of a buzz out of. I think working for a larger organisation or a larger charity, worthwhile. What they are doing is, your role might be. I think it'd be a bit tougher, to make that impact yourself. So
a bit more of a say kind of thing. Like,
and to change things, things do need changing direction, and you've got ideas. I would imagine it's a bit more difficult to introduce those ideas and introduce different ways of working.
And you worked at the Heart UK, which is
I did indeed. The reason why I went to Maidenhead. Yeah.
How long were you there? Was you quite a long
7 years.
Yeah, I was going to say 7, 8 years.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah.
And how was that? Did you see it transform quite a lot?
It's a great charity, and it's going. It's. I'm still in touch with them. Still friends with those that work there. It's just a really good.
It's like a family net.
It is. Yeah. It was sad because a couple of weeks ago, had a leave-in do for a fundraiser that was worked there, and it was almost the kind of an end of an era or start of something we knew. So as the old crowd got together for lunch to bid her well on her retirement, and it was just nice.
Yeah. And do you have to do quite a lot of fundraising? Is it like a target in mind when you work for a charity like that, where you've got to do X amount of fundraising to kind of raise a fund?
No, I'm not a fundraiser. I don't have a fundraising background. I've got the kind of knowledge of by working in charities. It's a particular skill. Not having that fundraising background, and I've not that. I mean, it's tough, And within fundraising, you've also got the particular skills within that kind of umbrella of fundraising. Are you an expert at writing grant applications? And if you do write grants, are they the big ones or are they lots of smaller ones? Are you can you do community fundraising? Can you coordinate things like the London Marathon and fun runs and all those other activities? There's a lot to learn in there. It's an expertise and a skill. Where I think what I bring is more of a commercial side to other charities, because things are tough and it's always difficult, but it's increasingly difficult to ask people to put their hand in the pocket and pay for something when they've got so many other challenges in life. So we've got to think about different ways of bringing in money for the charity. And
do you look at like the overview and see, right, we could do more in this sector or this area?
I do. Like when I go, you can think, well, this charity. I mean, I wouldn't work there if I didn't think there was if there was an opportunity there, and and that opportunity of doing things differently, and thinking, actually, let's just have a little play with this. Let's see if this would make a difference. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. It can't be any. Well, hopefully, it's not any worse than what it was. Yeah. But and trying to get that thought process for many people, perhaps in the public sector, perhaps in the charity. There's absolutely no way reflective of anybody, and I'm being really general here, but, don't often think in a commercial way and very often think, well, okay, we'll do that for free, and without thinking, actually, should we be doing it for a company, our benefactors, those people that we serve, are people in this instance with allergies, and it's them we should be looking after, not a company. So we'll charge that company for that, because there's value to our knowledge, expertise, the branding, the name, all the hard work that people have put into it over many years, and to give away stuff
it's so
for
important.
free.
Yeah,
it is, and we often overlook that, as charities, and that's sometimes why
I've
charities
said this with when brands reach out, and some brands like, can you do this for free? I'm like, absolutely, like, no. But I think like
it's insulting
I think the community sometimes, like, they're willing to like maybe like share the product for free if they don't have a huge I don't have a massive following, but like enough to be like if a brand approaches me, like, if you're going to make money off the back of me promoting the product, then you've got money then to spend on advertising.
Right.
So
that's right.
Really frustrates me.
I know we talked before we started here about somebody working with an agency, and it just really annoys me that you've got somebody with a big budget and they blow it all on an agency that might work down here in Covent Garden, and that they're spending an absolute fortune, and then you you just pour all your knowledge into that agency. They package it up in a different way and then charge the client a fortune. It just grates me so much, And
so much money as well.
It is a lot of money. Well, why didn't you come straight to us? We could have done a better job in the first place,
When there's because I've worked at a few different ad agencies, and the money is
it's crazy money, and we just don't realise. And I think sometimes working with smaller charities, you can't get your head around actually how much people charge. And some of these big budgets, they are really big budgets. We might be spending a couple £100 on a month's worth of Facebook promotions, and you've got a company that we might work with that's are spending tens of thousands.
Yeah. Do you expect with the anaphylaxis campaign? Did they do a lot of social? The Anaphylaxis UK. I bet you've had a word with
£2 you owe me now.
£2. It slips off the tongue, doesn't it? Because I've been saying it for so many years.
It's understandable. I mean, it's got a long history and heritage. So it's me upsetting everything.
Yeah, no, that's great. But I mean, do they do much? I mean, we'll get to that in a sec. But do they spend a lot on their social media?
You've got to though. You know what it's like. Yeah. If you don't, you can't just put a post out and hope organically it'll drift to the top. It just doesn't work like that. Yeah. We've got to. It's
really hard if you don't.
We've got to invest. You've got to invest. It's not just in the quality of what you're doing, the content. It's about promoting it.
It must be so different from like 10 years ago working at these charities. Yes. Have you seen a massive shift where the money goes?
Well,
now?
I don't like to tell you, but I remember the day that I sat down and started the internet and Google appeared.
To get the beep, beep, beep.
And what's this here? How can you find that? How do you know that?
Yeah.
Like the amazement.
Yeah, it's a bit like AI now, isn't it?
Well, it is. ChatGPT. Well, we might think, well, imagine what that's going to be like in 2 years.
We were talking how it helps you with podcast descriptions. Like me too. I write bullet points of what I've spoken in the podcast, and like write me a description.
Amazingly,
it's crazy. And I think I'm slightly dyslexic, I'll be honest, and I struggle like when it comes to writing. Even like tonight, I was like to my girlfriend, "Does this sound okay?" She's like, "No." She's like, "Have you not put it through ChatGPT?" And I was like, "No, like I need to pay for the subscription." But it's crazy how it just like to have all that access on your fingertips now, and like write me a YouTube script or. Write me a YouTube headline or anything. It's crazy.
It is great. And because I did I did an avatar, created an kind of digitized myself, and then and then animated it.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Because the idea
on ChatGPT.
No, it wasn't that. It was another kind of AI sort of thing. I'll show you later on.
Yeah.
And because motivation was that. I can't be just sitting through all of these boring meetings. There must be a way of having a pretend me on the end of a Teams call or a Zoom's call, and then everyone thinks it's me and I can be moving and all that, and then it's actually not me.
I've seen someone do that on YouTube where he made like pre-recorded clips of him answering questions in the morning call.
That's a good idea.
And then he was on his couch, he was just pressing buttons, and like no one had like any idea. So
I'm sure we've all been in meetings when we think, actually, is he actually there?
Have you seen a shift then with where the money goes? Like before, would it be in like print and media, and now it's like going more towards social media?
We are pretty much now 100% digital.
Yeah,
100%. We don't do posters, we don't do leaflets, we don't do booklets.
Yeah.
If you do want something, you have to print it off yourself. It was crazy money, you know.
I was going to say, you must be spending a fortune. Like
you would do as
paper,
you know, and we can't afford that.
Yeah.
But it's not just the printing you've got to think about. You know, you could do things like print on demand, but that gives that, you know, the end user that additional cost.
Yeah.
But it's the storage. You know, it's guesstimate. It's having that guesstimate of how many booklets are we going to order? Are we going to print here? How many are we going to end up throwing away in a few months' time? You know, it's all that waste, and we just don't need to do that anymore. You can, and also the reach. You know, you can get a PDF to tens of thousands of people at the cost of a minimal cost, whereas to produce 10,000 booklets would have cost a lot of money.
Yeah, so, something that's always been drilled into me is like the importance of like a newsletter, and like how that is a great way to kind of get in front of people straight away. As well, social media, you're fighting the algorithm, whereas an email,
that's what you need. That's what you need. And you know that people, because you can look at the open rates, you can look at the click through rates and all that sort of stuff. You know then that you've got an engaged audience, and hopefully that kind of reflects that you're giving folk the information that they want. With the social media, it's a bit hit and miss. But we've all got to do it. You've got to push those messages out constantly.
It's a full-time job now, isn't it?
It is a full-time job.
Like, platforms. I know you spoke about TikTok, but then how are you going to get time then to like use TikTok?
Totally right. You know. But it's the newsletters that I think is our new focus to get those pushed out. So we've got a newsletter for the public. Then they're now free. You can subscribe to the newsletter for healthcare professionals. We've got one for businesses, which is kind of a new audience for us. Yeah. And then a kind of a fundraising newsletter. So, we're trying to get our message out to as many people as we possibly can, starting from a relatively low base, but a very, very engaged community that we've got.
I really wanted to talk about, obviously, the Anaphylaxis UK, and obviously you've came in as the new CEO. Did you have any connections with allergies before you kind of took on the role?
No, I don't have allergies myself, and I know this is all a bit bizarre, but even working with Heart UK, I mean, I probably have got cholesterol, but high cholesterol, but it's not the condition, it's the opportunity to make that improvement, and you can see that there's a need. You can absolutely see the potential for this charity, and thinking it should be bigger. It should do more, and it can do more if we just have a little bit of a change on its approach and the way that it does things. And hopefully that'll start paying off given some of the changes that we've introduced recently.
How many UK charities is it within the allergy sector? Allergy UK?
Well, it's Allergy UK, there's Natasha Research
Foundation,
and I think there
Amy
are...
May Shed, I think, might be a charity.
Which one, sorry?
Amy May Shed Foundation.
And there's Sadie Bristow Foundation. So there are a few, but depends on how you define a large or a small. So, I think there are the three big ones. We're not necessarily that big in terms of turnover, but there are lots of small and more local ones as well. Yeah.
And do a lot of the charities work together, or is that something you
Well,
want to
funny,
do?
I had a call with Natasha Research Foundation and Allergy UK and which I don't know, speak to BSACI, which is the British kind of umbrella organisation for the healthcare professionals this morning.
Yeah. And with the role, and you kind of spoke about it earlier, but your role is to kind of come in and kind of transform that space and see new opportunities within the kind of the allergy community or the allergy space where you can kind of reach more people?
Yeah. So and that, because we exist to help others.
Yeah.
So we've got to help as many people as we possibly can, and remove as many barriers as I possibly can as chief exec, because I've got the got the kind of mandate to do that. But it's got to be with the support of the staff as well, clearly.
Yeah.
And just thinking about the things I've learned, particularly at Heart UK, and
what was the key? Was there any like big learnings there?
Yeah, it was the communications. Really, the push on the comms made a massive difference to the charity. So again, it was the way that
from all the different touch points, like
pretty much. Yeah, it was the look and feel of the charity. It was a new, fresher website. It was an approach more to digital, having a more digital engagement and an approach to that. A massive push on the newsletter.
Yeah.
The quality of the newsletter for Heart UK is brilliant. The engagement on that, the subscription rate, pushing on that. We talked about the social media, and everyone should realise that if you go onto Facebook owns your data.
Yeah.
If you go onto Instagram owns your data. Yeah. We get nothing from that. We can't engage further with that. We can't develop a relationship.
Yeah.
But if you subscribe to a newsletter and you give us your email address, then we can form a relationship and send you what you want. Then, so it's important to have that different approach to a newsletter, and that kind of engagement is different to an engagement on social media. So it was really looking at the different approaches to be able to reach out to more people, and just having a fresher or a refreshed look, and introducing different sorts of fonts. And it sounds a bit superficial, but the colours make such a big difference.
To how someone kind of feels,
and it's absolutely right. And even the word anaphylaxis, I wouldn't say it's long, it's complicated, it's a bit scary, it's got X's in there, it looks a bit frightening.
Yeah.
Can we soften that down? So you'll see, in the name of the charity, it's a small A, it's in small caps.
How come you got rid of the word campaign? Was it felt?
Well, again, it's another thing. I didn't think we campaigned.
Yeah.
A campaign to me is more lobbying, it's public affairs.
Yeah.
And we're more about information and support. Other charities do it far better than us. Natasha Research Foundation is absolutely brilliant around it, and being able to change legislation like that. So we don't want to be doing the same sort of thing, and let's specialise on anaphylaxis, not the broad spectrum of allergies, and concentrate on the things that we're good at. So providing training,
like finding what lane it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And so why would you support us if there's another charity that might be bigger and better than us doing other things? Well, there's no point in having you've got to specialise and do what you're good at. And
do you have to find that kind of like tone of voice as well? Did you look into
that more of informal?
Yeah.
And it is a particular skill, and it's difficult to get right, and it is evolving, because with no disrespect meant at all to any of our healthcare professionals and clinicians, but if you ask a doctor to write something, very often it's very technical, and it's very detailed, and it's very difficult to. So I often say that
quite scary as well.
It is a bit scary. Yeah. So and what I wanted to introduce at the charity at Anaphylaxis UK is that hope and that positivity. You can do stuff. You can go to a restaurant. You can go on holiday. You can go to birthday parties, and people don't need to be as scared about sending their children to school and so on. So changing that tone of voice is very important, that we are positive, we are supportive, reflect that positivity about being able to go to a restaurant. You can go on holiday. You can go to a restaurant. You can have sleepovers. You can do stuff. You can get on with it. And because what struck me really since I started working with a charity, almost immediately, is the anxiety and the worry. It's unbelievable, and I don't think people actually appreciate that. So to be able to reflect,
it's massive.
It is massive.
Yeah,
it is.
It's been something I've been banging on about.
It's
for
totally
so long,
unrecognised. I think it's not recognised from outside. So be able to put something in writing, or the way that we communicate, it's got to be in a positive way that has an empathy and an appreciation of that, and not make it scary. Not to talk about the deaths, not talk about the horrible things that can happen, but talk about the things that you can do, and be able to translate almost that clinical information that we might get, as we do from our clinical and scientific panel, into everyday language. So it might be a different way that we write for different people. And, we are currently exploring how we might be able to also communicate with people. So it's not just on the website. It's great doing things like this with you.
Yeah.
I've, kind of got my toe in the water with a YouTube channel. It's doing it on video. We are also introducing audio and video and animation for every fact sheet that we've got. And that's 50 fact sheets, over 50 fact sheets. So
it's a massive project, yeah.
It is a massive project, but we've got to do it. If we're serious about helping people and getting our message out there, then we'll do our absolute best to be able to get that message out to as many people and communicate in a way that we hope that they can best access.
If we touch back on the anxiety, something I discuss heavily on the podcast. I've had clinical kind of psychologists, therapists, like doctors discussing anxiety.
Yeah.
Is it something people reach out to the Anaphylaxis UK quite a lot?
You nearly
about?
Said it, didn't you?
Nearly said it.
Nearly
got it, yeah.
Give it another pound.
It's on the tip of my tongue then, yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. And we're going to have to do something about it. And I am
when someone reaches out, do you give them resource or websites?
Well, the helpline are brilliant,
yeah,
but we can't offer, therapeutic services and counselling and CBT and so on. That is a specialist area that we don't yet have direct access to. But early days yet for us in this new evolution. But I'm very hopeful that we can offer something soon.
Yeah, because I just, for me, I feel like it's just been on the increase like each year. And like I did a poll with 500 people a couple of months ago, about 4 months ago, and 500 people entered, like, an Instagram poll, like there's a yes or no answer, and 98% said they suffer with allergy anxiety.
Yeah.
I think 77% said it increased over the last year.
Yeah.
So I just feel like it's a real struggle at the minute. With
and accessing services is not making it any better.
Yeah.
To get a referral to a GP, and I think the whole journey, that somebody's got to get the courage to go out and say, I need help.
Yeah.
They've then got to get to the GP. They've got to get then from the GP, which might not be on the first appointment.
A first referral.
It might take a couple of appointments with that GP to then get a referral. That referral then goes to the allergy clinic.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody the other day. They've got a 2-year wait for an allergy clinic, right? And then from that allergy clinic is onto a CBT or a therapeutic civil. And that's a long time.
It's crazy,
to wait.
and like not everyone has the access to go private or get a private therapist.
No.
And,
so I'm hoping we might be able to provide that bridge. We'd play our bit in providing that bridge to support people with the information. So if they are waiting that long, at least they know more. And that first appointment that they have at the allergy clinic isn't about them asking questions about whatever allergy it is, because hopefully we've been able to provide them with that information and support so that they can, really dive into their own personal circumstances at that appointment. If we can somehow support people with a therapeutic service, but, demand is very high.
Yeah. And there's so very few as well. And I think like they're trying to do, Professor Adam Fox, like trying to do group sessions because it's so hard to do one for every individual case as well.
I think that's exactly what we're looking at doing is somehow being able to provide remote online.
We're quite lucky
using
now,
theme,
because obviously
all
people
of that
probably
sort of
wouldn't have
stuff.
thought twice about
Group.
doing.
But from what in my limited knowledge of it, and understanding, but group is better than individual often because you get that peer support and that understanding from others.
You're still doing the kind of, when I was a
in
kid,
person,
when I was a kid, I went to the Lake District with the Anaphylaxis UK. Got it. And it was
campaign then. So
it's campaign. I can get away with it then, kind of. And it was a great it was great for me because obviously I got to kind of meet other kids with food allergies as well.
Yeah.
And it was a great experience. Is that something as a charity? Do you still do these kind of like workshops or opportunities where everyone can meet?
It was dying off. There were few support groups when I kind of took on. Don't forget this, kind of 2 years worth of lockdown didn't help anything at all.
Yeah.
But so support group leaders there were few of them to run the groups. It was quite challenging for us. So a few months ago we said, let's stop this, let's pause, let's see how else we can do this. Can we, in the future, train up support group leaders to be able to offer therapeutic services?
How many support groups leaders have you got?
At the moment, because we've stopped them, well, I can't think how many.
Yeah.
There were X ones there were, but there weren't that many really operational after lockdown. It kind of killed them all off.
Yeah. And then with the anaphylaxis campaign, you mentioned obviously you're doing kind of the YouTube and kind of the video podcast now. How's that been?
Fun, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I've never done it before.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I've watched a few videos.
It's a good start.
Yeah,
it's a good, so they start off a bit too long, and the camera's not right, and the lighting's not right. And I'm looking at your cameras, and I'm looking at with Envy now. But you learn, and I think it's just a good way.
As everyone gets like a little bit better, it's a bit like compound interest. Like, if anyone else that way is, but I just feel like. Yeah. The more you do it, the more you know where to do the lighting or the camera, and even like now, like the equipment gets a little bit better. Like each year, like something gets a little bit better, and it's
just gotta remember I'm wearing a different shirt on each occasion. Like
Yeah, I'm always like in a black tee. It's
a good idea.
But
it's interesting because it's just a different way that we can try and get that message across. And YouTube is the second. Biggest search engine after Google, so it's an important one to consider.
It's the biggest platform for people listening to podcasts now.
There you go.
So
there you go.
I'm like joining to everyone, like even my work at the minute. We need a podcast. Like we've got all this incredible talent. Like before the podcast, I was like, we got these like film directors or writers and photographers. I was like, we should do a podcast with these. Like I would love. Like obviously we've got the course, but not everyone might have the access to pay X amount for the course. Like. Do like a free 1 hour like with the talent, and I feel like with podcasts now it's just kind of like the new. It's like a trend, isn't it? Like no one was really doing it. I mean, I did mine started in 2019, and I thought I missed the boat then.
Really, yeah.
So it's crazy to think like where it's gone in the last like 5 years. Like,
but it's great to do. It's also great for me in that I meet so many great people, and have nice conversations.
Well, that's what I mean. Like a lot of the time, you wouldn't have that opportunity to kind of sit down with someone for an hour and actually drill them or like ask them questions or just like get to know them as a person. Yeah. And I think you build a better relationship with these people. So everyone I've had on the podcast, when I've met them again, like I'll probably know.
Because you've had a nice chat.
Yeah, that's
the equivalent of being down the pub, isn't it?
Yeah. We should have got a few beers. And
I'll remind you next time.
That's right. Yeah, I've not done that. I've done it with friends before when I've had them on the podcast. It's like, we'll get the beers in and do it. But yeah, I was gonna say, have you got any like exciting projects then kind of lined up with the Anaphylaxis UK, which you can kind of speak about in the podcast?
Well, I'm really excited about some of the opportunities. What we've done over the last few months is bring together about 50 or more, and I'm looking at bringing in more, some of the big businesses. So they're both the restaurant chains, the supermarkets, the supply chains, the manufacturers.
Has it been difficult for them to get on board of allergies, or have restaurants been quite open to the discussion?
I am actually talking to those that are on board, and they are doing. I was at a factory the other week where they make sandwiches for a well-known supermarket, and it was amazing. And you've got no appreciation very often, not just how things are made, but the effort and the dedication that no matter who I spoke to, at that. They knew about allergens and they knew what to do.
It's incredible.
And the factory itself was laid out so that different products were separated. The cleaning, it was amazing. It was an eye opener. And I felt a little bit like what's that fella's name, Greg Wallace, and it going around the factory. I was all dressed up like with the.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, well, he goes around factories and sees how
amazing,
crisps are made. Anyway, I was a bit like him, so I thought then I was fully kitted out. And it was just fascinating, and that's with most companies, not all of them, most companies, and they go to huge amounts of efforts. Looking at the supply chains, looking at where the ingredients are coming, which could be from all over the world, and then they check and they check and they check. And it's not taken lightly at all. And they've got very, very dedicated teams of staff working in them. But I wanted to bring them all, as many as I possibly can, to bring people together just to make sure that we can learn from each other, that we can do the right thing together. And
it's so important. I've had speaking with someone before, previous on the podcast, so it's like slipped my mind, but I was saying about with the airline industry, when there's a massive like fuck up, they all share that knowledge with each other. It's called black box thinking. I was reading a book and it talks about when the airline, a plane was flying around. I'm not really selling this story. The airline was like, the plane was up in the air and the landing gear wasn't coming on.
Right.
So the pilot is like, the landing gears are coming on. So he's really fixated on the landing gear not coming on. And the pilot always had obviously he's like the top of the tree. So like whatever he says goes. And when one of the mechanics comes up and he's like, you're running out of fuel. But he's like, no, the landing gear, that's the most important thing in his head. He was so fixated on the landing gear, the plane ran out of fuel and it crashed. I think 5 people died. Look, I don't know how he managed to land a plane in the wood. It was like in the woodland. And now because of that mess up, they've set it's called the amber. I think it's like an amber light kind of, not service, but like a plan of action now, where they go through these amber lights if the pilot isn't listening, so this doesn't happen again. And because of that, it's probably saved lives now where the mechanic can speak up in that situation and go through these set of rules, these amber lights, to make sure that he's aware of the problem. And it's just incredible to see how the airline industry both learn from each other. I was just wondering whether the Allergy charities do that.
Well, that's what I'm really hoping to encourage. It's that kind of no blame culture that we can approach. Sounds a bit cliche, but what can we? If something goes wrong, if a product is recalled, let's learn from that. What happened? Because I can tell you now, having spoken to the majority of those companies now, they'd be devastated. Because they've put such tight controls on their process. It's normally somebody else's process that is broken down. So it's to find out without blaming anybody so that they're open and honest about learning and making things different. Same as in a restaurant.
I just think the whole thing with Natasha and Pret, did Pret give the key learnings to all these other companies? Or did they just keep that?
Well, I think it would have come out in the coroner's report, but that's what I'm encouraging, and the conversations. Believe me, we had 40 people in a room on whatever it was last Friday before, and the conversation they're free flowing. People are willing to share information, and I'm not sure that people have had that opportunity before. That's so we can make things better. We can learn from each other because I'm absolutely determined. That restaurants should positively welcome people into their restaurant if their customers got allergies, not told to stand in the corner, and wait for the manager or have to sign a waiver or get turned away. And many restaurants do it brilliantly. Many restaurants have got really good processes in place, but sometimes the customer service end is a little bit lacking because either the waiting staff are a bit nervous, they're a bit scared, they just don't know, they haven't necessarily had that communication training that makes somebody just feel like another guest, or another somebody else coming in, not having to stand in the corner with an orange wig on their head. Well, they kind of go through and get a different menu, and let's try and see how all restaurants can at least have some guidelines or some way of making things better for people when they come in. And I'm not saying every restaurant's going to get it right all the time, and sometimes processes and the way that the kitchens are and the way that the supply chain changes, it's not always going to be suitable for people with an allergy or certain allergies. But let's try and get it right in as many places as we possibly can.
I think what's interesting about yourself is because you've not came from allergies, you could probably see it from a different point of view. And for me, I think that's quite exciting that you could come in to the Anaphylaxis UK and see problems which other people might not see. Number one, because of your experience, but number two, maybe because, like you said, you don't have allergies. I don't know. I think, if we were to go out to a restaurant now, I'd expect to go to the same place. Yeah.
To me, it would be wrong to think otherwise.
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect you to be treated any differently to the way I am.
Yeah.
Yes, treated and asked questions, and for you to maybe challenge the restaurant when the time comes to take that order.
Like getting
but
people,
apart from that, you shouldn't be. So it's not right. It's just about the decent thing and the proper thing.
Yeah, and I think it's like you mentioned earlier. Are you trying to tap into that kind of younger demographic now, the young people kind of taking on that responsibility?
I'd love to.
Yeah.
I'd love to be younger as well, quite frankly, even though I do feel a lot younger than I am. But I think in practice, it's a different skill. There are different mediums for different people.
Yeah.
And at the moment, we're kind of concentrating on a particular age group. I think the younger demographics have got a different channels to access information.
Are you predominantly Facebook, would you say, at the minute?
We're predominantly Facebook. Obviously, the YouTube channel. What's copied, what goes on Facebook then gets over onto Instagram. Instagram, I think, is a bit more challenged because it's more pictorial, whereas perhaps we're more story. Forget TikTok, no way. Twitter has traditionally been more of a campaigning platform. I think is improving now.
I don't use Twitter.
No, it's not.
I've never.
It's
really
not a really engaging one. No,
Yeah.
I think people just go on it to have arguments, don't they? So
just laugh a bit. Steam.
So we don't do that much on there. And then LinkedIn, there's kind of business engagement, but it's not the general public wide.
Yeah.
I think to be able to communicate on social media anyway with a younger audience, just needs some younger skills to come in and are thinking differently again.
Yeah.
Because not going to read a web page. They're not going to print off a PDF.
Well, young people are now going to TikTok over Google.
Yeah.
To search.
Yeah, but how dangerous is that? I mean, it worries me enough about some of the misinformation that is already out there.
And there's some of the trends.
It's crazy. It's so
scary,
dangerous. Yeah.
People saying they're allergic to something and then eating it, and then the joke being when they walk away, they've got a cushion in their trousers or something stupid.
Yeah.
But
It's
but what really dangerous at the minute.
It's all right tutting and saying you shouldn't do that, but let's do something about it.
Yeah,
but you got to really
one video I shared just really got under my skin because she actually had allergies and she was promoting people eating stuff
that's crazy,
not looking at the labeling and just eating it, and really really infuriating.
But
she had a massive audience. She had
that's the whole point, isn't it? That's why
you're not
doing
using
it.
it for good. Actually, it's really dangerous what you're doing. And the video, I did a video about it. It got removed because she had a big audience and people was then attacking me and sending me nasty messages and stuff, being I was picking on it, which is absolutely stupid. She's got 300,000 followers, and it's dangerous. If someone followed that trend or did what she did, she could potentially would
she be happy to kill somebody?
Yeah, well, that's
for the sake of,
I said that.
For the sake of a few more likes or a retweet or whatever.
That's what I mean. It's just she knew by doing that content
what's
like that,
the point?
it was controversial.
It's just
dangerous,
selfish. Selfish. And
the fact so many people in the comments is can you remove this video or delete it? And she got already a backlash in comments and she didn't do anything.
Yeah.
But I'm quite lucky. I did this video and with the community they all supported me, and everyone went on TikTok and reported it, and because of that, the video is now removed.
Has it been taken down?
Which is amazing.
Well done.
This is I was really happy about that because just because it was so dangerous and stuff, and
people just don't realise, but she's doing it for the money.
Yeah,
she's encouraging people to risk their lives for her own financial gain.
Yeah,
and that's why we've got to dominate this space with the accurate.
Allergy is massive on TikTok. It's got like over 1 billion views. Right? The hashtag, wow. It's huge. It's massive. There's some good people out there raising awareness, but I think a lot of it, the allergy desensitization.
Yeah.
That's huge on TikTok of people sharing their journeys, and that's interesting. It's usually in the US. It's interesting for them to like share their experiences, and I try and do TikTok, but like you said, you need to post us twice as much as you
can just be on it all the time.
Yeah, it's addicting. With the algorithm now, they're trying to get it banned in the US. Have you seen that?
Yeah. Well, I'm not surprised. I mean, I kind of got a couple of ideas why that's happening, but we'll talk off camera.
I know.
That.
Yeah, you spoke about the rebrand and obviously getting rid of the words like kind of campaign and obviously changing the colours. And what was the initial kind of thought behind it? Like, what was the initial like reason when you initially saw the website?
Well, it was when it was an anaphylaxis campaign, and I could see where it wanted to go. And you'll remember that it was a kind of an orangish,
like a dirty orange.
A dirty orange, exactly right. And it was kind of sometimes a bit brown, and it was not quite as vibrant as. So I kept banging on, and everybody I was talking to at the time said, "This should be sunshine orange. It should be out bright. It should be positive. It should be sunshine orange, and that's what it should be." And then you'll see on the logo now we've got those sunshine rays as well, and offset
more
with
friendly,
offset with a teal,
No, it's great. Obviously, to kind of see how it's kind of changed.
Yeah, it's that kind of evolution of the heritage that's there, but fonts change, colours change. Every kind of brand goes through that sort of thing.
Did you work with an agency then with that? Was that?
Yeah, I've got a really good.
They've done a good job.
They are very, very good on that social media. I'll give them a plug. It's Boss Digital.
Okay,
they're very good, and worked with them for donkey's years, and they've just got a very good approach to things. They're not, they're not the Covent Garden big agency. They are small. They are kind of engaged and knowledgeable about stuff. So they advise and help with that sort of angle. But it's also things I picked up myself.
I was going to ask, what does your kind of day-to-day look like now?
I guess it's a lot like many people's that used to work in an office 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
When I was at Heart UK, I was like about a 10-minute walk. It was a little stretch around Maidenhead and up the road. And then, lockdown came along and everybody's lives changed. And
do you prefer it now?
I think I'm turning into a bit of a hermit, though. I must be honest.
Really?
Yeah, it's kind of. I do enjoy it because it just saves a bit of time and there's just less hassle.
Yeah.
But then you lose that social interaction, and I completely get that. So
it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because I'm
it is
remote
a bit
as
of a
well.
balance.
And,
it is a bit of a balance.
I don't have like the social. Like we went to the pub the other day, and that was the first time in ages. And that was really nice. And maybe one of us needs to take the lead. And
that's
like
it.
Tomorrow, otherwise,
that's
and just keep that up, because otherwise, I don't know. Like you just feel
it's
like
easy to get out the swing of it. It is, and quite a few people work not that close to Farnborough as well. So we go in once a month, and part of that is to get together and do the kind of formal business stuff, like the team meetings. But a lot of it is just to chat. And just
that's what
connect
I mean. It's
face
nice
to face. We have lunch.
I'm always knackered when I go into the office, just from like chatting to people, because like usually just like sat at my desk over there doing work.
Yeah, so, that's it. So,
nice
yeah.
Do you think it's better for your mental health? Like, or do you think?
Well, I mean, personally speaking, I don't mind either, frankly. But I do get it that some people want to get out of the house. I'm fortunate enough that I've been able to turn one of my bedrooms into an office, so at the end of the day, I can leave that, close the door, and that's it really. But I
Did you get out for a brisk walk at lunch? Or?
That's the theory, but lazy bones as well. So lazy bones on a hermit. But I think I do get it, and I think it's particularly more so for younger people who might be still living with their parents. They might have family circumstances. They might not have a room dedicated probably. It might be on the dining room table. It might be, your Wi-Fi is conflicted. So I completely get the way that, some people don't like it. But, I think there are other ways that, you can get out of the house, not all the time, not permanently working, but, go to a coffee place or go to a flexible office or
I need to do that because
somewhere.
At first it was a bit of like a privilege.
Yeah. And you felt as though you were being a bit naughty, didn't you?
There's some days I used to bring my laptop to the pub. I've not done this for this job. They're like, don't worry. But like with the other job, if the guys, it's usually when it's nice and the sun's out, go to the pub garden and just like if you've got Wi-Fi, just work from there. It doesn't mean I'm getting smashed. It's just like because it's just nice to get out and get a bit of sun.
And I'm hoping that employers are more understanding about the flexibility to to me, if you get the work done, and be respectful for the time of your colleagues, but do it when you want. I don't want people working at night or on weekends and holiday and all that sort of stuff. Be sensible about that as well. But you're an adult. It's your life. You run it yourself.
That's what I mean. For me, it's so important that I can get down to the gym every lunch.
Right. No, you definitely
it's so important for your mental health. Otherwise, I'm just sat in this flat, in these four walls, and I'm going to drive myself insane. So I think doing that just is so good for my headspace.
Yes.
And then at the night, I've got the time. Then if I do want to work on the podcast or reach out to people, I've got that time. But
no, that's very important. Yeah, it's very important.
I really wanted to find out if anyone who listens to this podcast can support the Anaphylaxis UK, how they can kind of get in touch.
Thank you. It'd be through the website. So it's anaphylaxis.org.uk.
You've got all the channels and
all the stuff's there. Yeah. I mean,
all the podcasts. If you want to listen to that,
that's great that you give me this chance. But on YouTube, it's the at Anaphylaxis UK handle on that.
Yeah. Honestly, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast.
I've loved it.
And it's
I'll have you on one of my YouTubes.
Yeah, we should do. Yeah. Because I think I've been wanting, when I started the podcast, it was in my notes in 2019 to have, it was the Anaphylaxis campaign back then.
All right.
To have them on the podcast. So it's crazy to think it's took this long. But I think as soon as I spoke to you that day on the phone, Simon, I just knew I thought it'd be good to get you on.
Awesome. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Yeah. Thank you.
Cool.
Cool.